What's up, guys? I'm Ryan the Cyber Hobbit, and it's time for the Prime One Studios Frodo and Gollum unboxing. Let's go. And because this box is way too big for my table, this is gonna have to happen on the floor. I was actually quite surprised just how big this box was, as I know the statue isn't necessarily supposed to be too huge, though it's 1/4 scale, but I guess more protection is better than less. But I will bring it up to show off the really cool art box. And now let's unbox it. Rather than showing off each individual piece as I remove them from the box like I did with my Prime 1 Sauron, I'm going to take them all out and then we'll take a closer look on my table with better lighting. So let's start with the base. How cool is this? It's a sort of circular chunk of Shelob's lair. Along the outside edge, we've got the inscription of the One Ring on this sort of large brown circle piece that goes all the way around. I guess it's supposed to be a ring, though it's a brown color instead of gold, which honestly I like, because if it was gold, then it would take away from the actual One Ring that is front and center of the base itself. I think the One Ring looks great. It's not metal, but I think that's okay. It doesn't need to be. Inside of the One Ring, you can also see a Leaf of Lorien, which is a nice extra touch. On the top of the base, there is a nicely painted big rock slab that's got some of Shelob's web attached to one side of it. I think the web itself looks pretty nice, and according to Haunt of the Collector, who used to own hundreds of tarantulas, the web is actually accurate. I initially thought some of the edges seem a bit thick, but even after looking at some blanket webs from tarantulas online, this is how it should look. Various bones and remnants of Shelob's victims are scattered about, and hidden inside the web itself is a skull and spine of what we can assume is one unlucky orc. I honestly have no complaints of anything on the base so far. This all looks great. And now let's move on to Gollum. First, the head sculpt. For being modeled after a CGI character, I think this looks great. It's pretty accurate to what is seen in the films. Nice big eyes and a creepy smile. The paint job is layered, so besides having just the skin color, you can see hues of reds and blues. And it's also covered in little specks to make the skin look not so clean and perfect. Almost like they flicked some tiny brown spots all over it for freckles. Really nice job. If I had to make one complaint though, it would probably be that his eyes could use a bit more visible veins, but other than that, this is great. His hair seems to be a touch thicker than it is in the films, but I feel like that's because they couldn't really make his hair too thin, or it might be prone to break easily. When I think of Gollum, I don't really think of his hair, but with this, it does stand out a bit much. I probably need to figure out a way to have it not poof up so much. Maybe it's just a matter of adding a tiny bit of water to help slick it onto his head a little bit. I think the rest of his body is sculpted pretty well. There's a visible skin texture pretty much all over him, and the same use of layered painting really helps to bring out his pale skin tones. On his back, you can see his scars from being tortured into giving up the infamous as well as his bony spine sticking out through his skin. He's got really dirty knees, hands, and feet from crawling around on the ground all the time. And he's even got his tiny pouch he used to hold the ring in on his side. I wonder if he has anything else in there. And as you may have seen already, there are spots to attach his ragged and tattered loincloth that comes separate. Very strong magnets to hold in each piece. And then the last step is to attach them to the base. I was expecting a bit of a fight, but it goes in pretty easily. My Sauron was a completely different story. And now on to Frodo. Let's start with the head sculpt. Now I won't say this is perfect, but this is by far the best head sculpt of Elijah Wood I've ever seen. I can't tell why exactly, but for some reason he looks slightly older from certain angles. Maybe his head is just a tad taller than it should be. Either way, this is still wonderful. The paint application looks great. Slightly rosy cheeks and those Elijah blue eyes. Perhaps for the scene this is supposed to represent, his face is a bit cleaner than it should be, but this is just me nitpicking. I'm very happy with this. I will say his hair sort of looks all the same color, so maybe a bit of dry brushing a lighter brown could have helped give it just a touch of depth. Either way, this is still a nice sculpt of the Hobbit curly and wavy hair. And now, Frodo's arm. The sculpt looks great. His skin is textured and you can even see some veins and his carpal bone sticking out of his wrist. The paint job and sculpt on his sleeve looks nice and wrinkled. And if you didn't know, this statue comes with a light-up feature via the light of Arundel's star, the Vial of Galadriel. The vial itself looks pretty good. It's a bit dirty, but I think that's sort of expected as Frodo pulls it out after lying on the ground in Shelob's cave. To power the vial, you'll need two LR41 batteries, and they are inserted into the keying part of his arm. This is a great way to hide the batteries, but unfortunately that also means that the switch to turn them on is located inside of his arm. So, anytime you want to turn them on, you have to first take his arm off. Still, this is a really cool feature, and if you know me, you know I'm a big fan of anything with LEDs, so I love this. Next is Frodo's forearm, which is holding his sword Sting. And yes, the sword is made of metal. The cast is great and looks just like it did in the films. If you didn't know, the writing on the sword is Sindarin and translates to "Magnus is my name, I am the spider's bane." Here's a quick comparison to the full-size Sting from United Cutlery. This even has a bit of weathering that is missing from the United Cutlery sword. Really great job. And now for the rest of Frodo's body. The sculpt is excellent. You can see the fabric texture in both his pants and shirt. The paint job looks great. He's nice and dirty, as he should be for rolling around in Shelob's lair. His pants even have some tears towards the bottom. Around his waist is the belt that holds his scabbard. This looks great. I should really consider getting a scabbard for my life-size Sting. He also comes with the iconic large hobbit feet that are covered in synthetic hair. It looks good. And even though it won't really be shown, the bottoms of his feet are absolutely filthy. And last but not least is his elven cloak, complete with his leaf of Lorien. A nice and textured wavy sculpt that helps to give some movement to the piece. I will say perhaps there should be a bit of weathering towards the bottom, as it seems basically all the same color all the way down. I know it doesn't drag on the bottom, but for all the times Frodo and Sam squat to hide throughout the films, it would surely get dirty. His elven brooch looks great. Nice and shiny. Also, here's a quick comparison to a life-size version that I got from Noble Collection. I really like this shade of green. Sometimes it's all about the small details. Oh, and I almost forgot. His golden one ring of power. A nice silver chain to hold it around his neck.
It's so tiny.
And now all that's left is to put it all together. And yet again, it goes in smooth. The arms go in nice and easy. Pretty strong magnets to hold on. Be sure to put his ring on first before you put the cloak. And then finally the head. Also included in the box is a little baggie of extra webbing in case you feel like adding more to the base, or in case you mess up what's currently on there. And finally, since this is called the bonus edition, there is a life-size one ring of power that comes with a silver chain. Although the ring is gold, I'm not sure if it's gold-plated or not. It doesn't really say. I do like, though, that the inscription is red. Really cool. Here's a comparison to some of my other One Rings. The one on the right side is the Sauron-size One Ring that came with my Prime 1 Sauron. Okay, so final thoughts. I absolutely love this piece. The head sculpt on both Frodo and Gollum is great. The paint application looks really good, though missing a bit of weathering here and there. I love the placement of Gollum and his creepy stare at Frodo. The base is wonderful and full of all kinds of tiny details. You get a metal sword and a light-up vial of Galadriel. I love the use of multiple materials besides just the polystone, like the metal for the sword and the synthetic hair on Gollum and Frodo's feet. And you can't forget the blanket of Shelob's webbing. Yes, it has some drawbacks, like to turn on the vial, you have to remove Frodo's arm, but it's understandable why they did it that way. This checks a lot of boxes for me. Yes, it does have a pretty steep price of $1,099, but for a Prime 1 Studios piece, this actually isn't too bad. Remember, you're getting two characters and an extremely detailed base, and you can't forget the bonus of the life-size One Ring of Power. This is my second 1/4 scale statue, and because room is an issue for me, this being about Frodo and Gollum makes it not take up too much space, as they are small characters. I'm extremely happy I decided to pick this up. I give this a 9.8 out of 10. Very, very nice job, Prime 1. I don't think I could have asked for more. If you enjoyed this video, do me the huge favor of clicking that like button or consider subscribing. These types of videos take me a while to make, and I could really use your support. If not though, I just want to say thank you for watching. Until next time, have a good day. Bye-bye.